So picture the following. An entrepreneur who grows a thriving company, arrives at work on time, maintains a squeaky clean driving record, pays her bills, saves money, has a ton of friends, reads, exercises, does all the things, and drinks a lot. Today we focus on the phenomenon of the functional alcoholic, that largely unseen and untreated cross-section of the addiction population. Our guest discusses her ongoing struggle with alcohol, as well as the extreme social anxiety and daily panic attacks that arise whenever she attempts to get sober. Also, keep in mind that the program notes will contain resources for individuals in need of help, as well as for family members and friends of those who may be struggling with addiction. My name is Benjamin Russick, licensed marriage and family therapist, and this is my podcast, Look, Just Tell Me What to Do. You don't have to use your real name. Do you want to use a fake name?
No, it's fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not scared.
You're not scared? Why not? Why aren't you scared?
Well, I don't really hide from anybody, and
Can I paint a picture of you for the audience?
sure.
So, what's your name?
Alicia.
So, Alicia recently got a haircut, and it's it's the haircut that Pink has.
Yeah,
with the sort
Alicia
of
Moore.
The swoop.
Yeah, I would say that. It's short.
It's very short.
It's very short.
And you've got a black halter top on and shorts and rainbow shoes. You look pretty burly, like you could
Kick
knock a
some ass.
motherfucker out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you got the hoop.
I was kind of going for that. But I'm actually kind of nice. So
Well, you're
like, I'm
nice
not
to
that
me.
I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'd say so. So, what are we talking about today?
I believe it's going to be in regards to someone in active addiction.
Yes. So the reason I wanted to have you in today was because you are an active alcoholic, so described.
That's true.
Self-described. The reason I brought you in today is because I work in addiction a lot, and a lot of addiction stories are feel-good stories. Like, oh, this person overcame this thing. And I'm tired of those stories. They're boring.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them. I want to hear your story because you're in the middle of it. And the reason I want your story is partially because I want to destigmatize the idea of everyone says, oh, you have a choice, and kind of talk about the disease model a little bit and how ferocious this thing is.
Right.
And develop some empathy from people who may have family members who are alcoholics or addicts, and they're judging them and holding them in this position of like, well, why can't you pull it together?
Right.
Also, I do think that there is a victory in here for you, but it's kind of paradoxical because I think you are doing really, really well.
That's
even
true.
though you have not quite kicked it.
I think I would be considered someone that is a high functioning alcoholic.
Very, very high functioning alcoholic.
You know, I'm able to do things within the real world and run a small business, pay all my bills, and do everything on my own. Yet I'm still, I don't know how to put this in the nicest way possible, but dying on the inside or killing myself at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're all dying slowly, but I'm just kicking it into high gear with my alcoholism. So
let's start with some history. So
okay.
How long have you been drinking?
I just turned 39. The first time I drank alcohol ever I was probably around 5.
Okay.
I know this sounds really funny, but it's a story I was told. My parents were moving out of my grandparents' house and apparently left a bunch of beers out, and I picked them up and started drinking them because my dad kind of thought it was funny. He used to always take pictures with me sipping off the beer. So I started drinking them. Apparently I got drunk. So that was my first time getting drunk. And I had drinking on and off from a young age through middle school, high school and stuff. But I really didn't get bad until I was probably 20, 21. I remember getting really drunk one night at a friend's house in San Francisco, and I felt really good. It was like a moment of like, I can come out and be who I've always felt like I should be and feel like I can talk to people. I'm not very outgoing. Let's just put it that way. I'm kind of an introvert, not 100%, but like I just don't like going out without the liquid courage. So
certainly. Right.
Yeah. So anyways, that night when I felt that drunk, That was it.
It was a miracle.
Yeah, it was like a feeling where I won't ever forget. Like my whole body felt like it went from my neck all the way down through my chest to my stomach to my legs. Like I kind of started to feel like the alcohol going through my system. I don't know. I don't feel that anymore, but
So in those days, you could feel like the liquid courage kind of going through your body, like you were some kind of superhero being born, like like He-Man got his sword, or like,
Yeah.
and suddenly he has the power.
yeah,
Right.
like I was super shy at the party. I wasn't talking to anybody, and then I started drinking. My friends were taking shots, and I just remember the feeling of the warmth coming over me, and it just felt I let loose. I like had fun. I was able to talk to people. I was able to like talk to the person I was crushing on,
Certainly.
So yeah.
Let me ask you, and I ask a lot of folks who struggle with chemical dependency this question: do you think you were more addicted to the substance or what the substance did for you?
I would say it's more for what the substance does for me. Being able to, I feel like I can get things out and talk better and make more sense and be, I don't know, more verbal of what I want and what I need. As opposed to if I'm sober, I don't really speak up. I'm very shy, kind of timid, especially if I don't know someone. Especially when it comes to my work. Like if I have to meet a new customer and sit down and talk with them, it's easier for me to have a couple drinks in me to be able to talk to the person. Like I just don't, I don't know how to explain it. It's
Makes sense to me. I mean, I would ask people to think about, what would it be like if there was some part of your life where you were just dysfunctional, either physically, emotionally, or mentally, and suddenly you took your Adderall and you could think, or you could take your opiates and suddenly your pain would go away and you could play a sport or drink and become socially active and just be a normal person.
Yeah.
And feel whole. So drugs and alcohol give us the artificial sense of wholeness and capability.
It's like self-medicating.
For sure it is. Yeah. People say, well, it's just a choice. You can just do it. It's like, well, you're asking this person to choose between a life in their minds. I'm not saying this is the reality. Let's say you're asking Alicia not to be able to be comfortable in someone's presence ever and not talk to anybody ever and just be a
hermit.
A hermit. Do you practice being social without alcohol?
I've done it before. I've been in and out of trying to be sober.
Yeah.
So I've definitely had moments where I have to be sober, and then I didn't have to go out sober.
Right.
I could have stayed in, but I'm married, and my wife is very social,
Sure.
and I can't just close down and not do anything with my life. I have to keep doing, or keep going, I should say. But yeah, I've tried it, and I don't know, I guess you can explain it in a way like I'm really fun and outgoing if I'm drinking, and I'm not if I'm not. Like,
Okay.
I'm very quiet and shut down, and I don't even know how to speak to someone sometimes.
Yeah. When's the last time you had a drink?
Today.
What time?
An hour ago.
An hour ago? So it's 4:30 now. How much did you drink?
Well, good question. I don't keep track of my drinking,
Okay.
but if I were to guess, a little over a pint of hard liquor.
An hour ago.
No, not just in 1 hour.
Oh,
It's been throughout the day.
throughout the day.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's not that much.
Okay.
Well,
we'll talk about
for
that
me.
in a sec.
Yeah, I know.
So I guess what was that in preparation to this interview, or was that just because it's just what you do on a Sunday?
It's not just what I do on a Sunday. It's usually what I do daily.
Okay.
But I don't wake up and usually just wake up and say, I'm going to have some drinks right now. This is what usually happens. I usually say to myself, today I'm not going to drink.
Yes.
I get up and I feel like shit or something, or maybe I feel great. And I'll say, well, maybe I can drink a little bit today because I drank so much yesterday. I might need to kind of wean it down a little bit.
Right.
And then I start talking myself into, you know what, let's just do this another day and let's quit another day.
Right.
And then usually what happens from there, it's like a cycle. I wake up around 3:30 or 4:30 in the morning. Major regret, thinking to myself, what the hell did I drink? Why did I drink so much? I said I wasn't going to drink yesterday. I end up drinking like a half a bottle or a half a fifth to a whole bottle. It depends on how the day is.
Describe a fifth to people.
It's basically a wine bottle of hard liquor.
How many days a week do you drink a fifth of hard liquor a day, do you think, out of the week?
I don't do that often. That's on a really bad
day.
It's like if it's on a really bad week, I could drink probably a half a gallon of tequila within like a 3 to 4 day period.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's not including like drinking other things. I don't know. It's really hard because, again, I don't really keep track.
Certainly.
And I'd rather not keep track.
Let's go back to your history. How much were you drinking at your height? When do you think it peaked?
Oh, most definitely now.
Oh,
this
now.
is the worst I've ever been with
Okay.
drinking, because all through the years, drinking's always been the fallback. It's always been what I've gone to, kind of like my safety net,
Mm-hmm.
because I was doing other drugs. I did for a couple of years. I was a cocaine addict. I was deep in it. It was all the time. I was doing bags of cocaine all night, and then I would wake up in the morning to check and see if I had anything left. I would have to go and get some more from my friends or my drug dealer. And I was kind of lost in that. And I've always had this thing where it's like I call it Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, I'm like back and forth. I'm like, shit, I have a problem. I need to get help. I need to do something about this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel super lost. And then there's moments where I'm like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You have your shit together. You're paying your rent.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying all your bills. Now you own a company. You're going to work. You're keeping your jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never lost a job
Mm-hmm.
from my addictions.
Which is rare, by the way.
It is very rare.
Yeah, I've not heard of that at your level.
I think I'm just also addicted to working.
Yeah. Well, I probably don't meet the people, because the people that come to me or the people that I meet in treatment are the ones who have lost their jobs and stuff. So I think that the functional alcoholics and addicts of the world probably don't ever end up in treatment. And
Well,
we'll
which
never
is
know.
why I've explained to you, I've always had that feeling like I feel like I don't fit in with the people that I've gone to treatment with.
How many times have you been to treatment?
I've been to 3 inpatient.
And how long were those treatment episodes?
I went for 28 days with Sequoia
Mm-hmm.
in Redwood City.
Mm-hmm.
I did Momentum in Palo Alto. I did a live-in kind of like sober community / inpatient treatment.
And how many IOPs? Intensive outpatient?
Okay, so I think I've done 4.
And for those of you who don't know what IOP is, intensive outpatient is basically like day camp. You go in, there's group therapy, and it's like a center where there's learning and there's therapists, and you get urinary analysis tests, and they kind of keep track of you, and then you go about your merry way around 3 p.m. And
Yeah, it could be morning or evening.
Yeah.
And it's like 3 to 4 hours of 3 different groups.
So what are the things that made you want to get treatment? I mean, is it just a sense of like, this is not good for me, I'm destroying my liver and my pancreas, and I I'm dying inside, and I'm eroding I'm taking years off my life? Like, why did you want to get help?
When I turned around 30, which was 9 years ago, I started to experience my anxiety to start peaking again. And now, just to kind of give everybody insight on that, I've had anxiety my entire life since I was a child, since I can remember, like probably since I started walking. I don't know. And it's the everyday stress anxiety.
Describe it.
Okay, so we've got the everyday stress anxiety where people are like, oh my God, I can't pay my registration. What am I going to do? Stressing out about it. Mine more so is, I can't really explain it because still to this day, I really don't know a whole lot of why or where it came from for me. I do think it's probably unprocessed trauma. Also dealing with a lot of maybe mental health issues that I haven't taken care of.
So do you get like shallowness of breath, heart rate increases?
Yes. So shallowness of breath, heart rate, feels like it's coming out of my chest. I feel like I can't take a full breath. I just can't breathe. Like, I feel suffocated when there's nothing suffocating me.
And how long do those things last?
It can last between 10 minutes to about a half hour for me.
Okay. So you have a dual thing happening. Not only does alcohol help you with your social anxiety stuff, but it helps you with some really, really acute anxiety.
Oh, horrible anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think my anxiety really is what started me numbing out on any kind of drugs or alcohol.
Right. So I'm really painting a picture here of somebody who is self-medicating. I want people to know in the world that addiction, it's just what it is. It's like she found a medication that worked. It bears a heavy price tag, but you can sort of get a sense of what Alicia is going through on a day-to-day basis. Have you had any success talking to psychiatrists about getting medicated for your anxiety so you don't have to drink?
Okay, so I have talked to a psychiatrist quite a few times, and just recently too. He did try to get me on medication. This is the thing. I have a really hard time trusting in doctors because I've been misdiagnosed so many times and put on so many different types of medications that really mess me up. And so who knows you best? Yourself, right? As much as I know that I don't always make the right decisions for myself, and maybe what I'm doing is killing myself. I do know that because there's signs that tell me that, and the pit of my stomach tells me what I'm doing in my life and the decisions I'm making in regards to alcohol are affecting me in a very negative way. However, the other part of me looks back on when I was misdiagnosed and given medication that really kind of sent me in a very dark depression. And I'm not saying all doctors are bad, and I'm not saying that every doctor out there is going to prescribe the wrong thing for people. I don't want to discourage anybody from that. I'm just saying that's been my experience, and so I'm scared.
And you haven't tried any of the medications that the psychiatrist recommended?
I stopped, I'm going to say 5 years ago, stopped taking medications 5 years ago, and kind of went directly back to drinking at that point.
All right. At any rate, so I would encourage you to talk to your psychiatrist about your anxiety with medications, and perhaps try and see if he can or she can work something out with you where it's not quite so panic-inducing.
I think I just have to take time getting into that. They can't just off the first time meeting me say, here's a script, kind of thing.
Okay.
All
right. Let's talk a little bit about the environment that you have been combating over the past few years. One of the roadblocks, the largest roadblock to sobriety, in my opinion, besides one's relationship to oneself, is one's relationship to one's community.
Right.
And who is literally around you. Your family, your spouse, your neighbors, your friends, where you work, who you see, who you talk to. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges in that environment?
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, if we were to go back a little bit just to kind of talk about how I was raised and where I've been, where I kind of come from. My family, we've always had addictions kind of throughout the family. I've lost uncles, grandparents to their afflictions, which happens to be mostly alcohol, I think. So growing up, my parents always used to say, you have to be careful how much you drink. It runs in the family. Like alcoholism runs in the family. I kind of never really understood that. I was always like, what does it matter that Uncle Charlie likes to drink? Like, I'm not him. I'm a different person than him. And I just never got it as a child. I was just kind of like, whatever. And I remember he passed away when I was in 6th grade. That was my mom's brother. My mom was explaining to me why he passed away. And it was, liver failure, kidney failure. Basically, his body failed him. And he passed away actually at my age now, which is weird to say because I haven't thought about that. And then my other uncle, which is my dad's side, passed away from the same thing. I think he ended up actually taking his life with drugs. And my grandfather on my mom's side drank himself to death. She actually didn't see him since she was in 2nd grade because my grandma had kicked him out and said, don't come back until you are better, which, and those times, that's kind of the thing to do. Hey, you're drinking our life savings away. Get the fuck out. Sorry. Get the fuck out and come back when you have your shit together kind of thing. And he never did. He basically just drank himself into oblivion and ended up dying from causing a hole in his artery. I don't know. He bled to death through his throat.
Yeah, that happens.
Yes.
I don't quite understand the science behind it.
I don't either.
Yeah, they basically drown in their own blood.
Yeah, that's what happened.
It's terrible.
He died in his sleep like that. So anyways, my parents, wonderful, wonderful people, but they've just not made the best decisions in life. And so my parents have a lot of trauma. And they've carried that into my life with my brother's life. And they drank through my younger years. I'm the oldest child. I have one younger brother. He's 7 years younger than me. I became the built-in babysitter, basically. My parents would like to go and party, and we'd be with them. And I would be babysitting the kids in the house. And meanwhile, my parents are downstairs with the other parents partying it up. Instances like going to the pool past the closing time where we would take the Red Ryder wagon,
Mhm.
fill it up with wine
Oh, dear.
boxes and, like whatever they wanted. And we'd go swimming on a school night at
Mhm.
midnight. And then we would come home and my dad would drive home. I mean, this is probably through my middle school years into my high school years.
So your family was pretty sloshy.
Oh, yeah.
They were drinkers.
They are drinkers. They are 100% drinkers. So that's kind of what I was trying to paint a picture of, is the fact that I grew up in a family that drinks. However, it would always be at the talk. Be careful how much you drink. Be careful this and that, because you can go over. Well, it's already gone overboard. We're all overboard.
The boat has left. We're in
The
the water.
boat has
Where are the life
sank.
jackets? Like it's
the
like
iceberg hit and the boat has sank. So.
This is done.
Yeah, and I hate laughing about it because at the same time, I mean, my dad's the type of guy that uses humor to, deflect. But my parents are my friends and my drinking partners.
So they were close by you and they would come over and drink all the time? Like you were just surrounded by that environment?
It's weird not drinking around them. Let's just put it that way.
Right. Is it how you guys relate?
Yeah.
So mom and dad come over, the whiskey or the whatever, the tequila comes out, and it's like, let's talk and let's be a family.
Everything. Whatever we have comes out.
Oh. Okay.
It's in fact, a good example is my dad just recently came down to have a surgical thing done, have something removed, and he's like, can I spend the night at your house? I said, of course. So my dad goes, well, good, we can have father-daughter time. And I said, perfect. We'll have fun. And so it just so happened to be on the night that my wife was working, because she also bartends on the side. She's a personal chef, but she bartends on the side.
Sure.
Kind of how you do it in the Bay Area. You have 2 jobs. So
yeah.
Anyways, he comes down and I say, okay, let's go out to dinner. And we start drinking and we're sitting at the bar. And then we order dinner. We have a little bit to eat and we order more drinks. And then we end up getting more drinks. And then we go to the bar and then we start drinking more. And then it was like nonstop. Like the 2 of us ended up being shit-faced by the end of the night. We get home. My dad's like, okay, good night. And it's like
father-daughter time.
Yeah. And that's our father-daughter time.
So alcohol becomes a function of love.
Oh, 100%.
Because without alcohol, how can you love each other?
Not like that, because I know my father loves me no matter what. I know he loves me. I just don't think the 2 of us are very good at being sober and expressing that.
So alcohol becomes how to express love is by drinking, which is reminiscent, of course, of your ability to socialize with others. But in your family, it's much more intense.
Yeah, it opens us up, and we're able to be more. I don't know how to put it. When there's no alcohol involved, we're all very quiet. Yeah. My parents are passive people.
Sure.
It's like this weird thing where we actually don't open up as much unless there's alcohol involved. Right. I don't know.
So when someone says, here, stop drinking, you're saying, well, what you're asking me to do is to hinder my ability to socialize with people generally, experience extreme sense of anxiety, bordering on panic on a daily basis, and basically not be able to relate to my family.
Pretty much.
That's rough.
No, it's 100% rough. When I quit drinking for 6 months, I had a hard time relating or even being around my parents because it just was awkward.
Is it like, don't you love us? Don't you, how are we supposed to relate to you and share love and be a family if we don't have this lubrication here? That must be pretty awkward.
It is, but they don't actually say it like that. It's their actions. It's not what they say to me. Like, if I'm not drinking, let's say I'm visiting my parents and I come up and I say, I'm taking a couple of days off. I can't, I need to take some time off from drinking. It's more, well, my parents will still drink regardless. It doesn't matter. And they'll get open. But then it's kind of like, my dad will then kind of, well, I'm not trying to throw my dad under the bus because I love him dearly. And I know that they experience just as much hurt and pain as I have in my life and deal with their own pain the way they are dealing with. They haven't had support and they just kind of, I feel bad for them, but I know it's not their fault where they're at.
So what actions do they take?
Well, I my dad will make comments to me kind of like, and I'll say, well, I have to stop drinking because I feel like my anxiety's gotten really bad and like the alcohol's not helping it. And my dad will say, Well, you know what will fix that is a drink. Like, things like that.
Does your father know you struggle with alcoholism?
I've told him.
Mm-hmm.
It's concerning to me in a lot of ways with the amount of people that are the closest people to me in my life
Mm-hmm.
that know how much I struggle
Mm-hmm.
as far as drinking goes and my anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think those people would at some point say, hey, we should probably do something more and
Support you.
and support you more,
Mm-hmm.
or support you in a way that you need to be supported. Another good example. I, for the past couple of years, and it's like clockwork, if I binge drink really badly
Mm-hmm.
during the day, I'll wake up. Well, it's normal for me to wake up around 3:34, and be like, I want to break up with alcohol at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll wake up with like a metallic flavor in my mouth, and I'll be like, oh, shit, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
I'll run to the bathroom, spit, and it's blood. Now I know it's coming from my stomach because it happens every time I lay down and every time I wake up
Mm-hmm.
in the morning. So before, I had no idea where the hell it was coming from. I actually was like, well, it might be my throat. Who knows? It's like maybe my grandfather. Maybe I'm going to die like my grandfather. Maybe I'm burning a hole in my throat and I'm about to go. And you'd think that would stop someone from drinking. But for some reason, it hasn't stopped me. And that's another thing I've brought up to my parents. I've told them, hey, I spit up blood. I want someone to relate to. I just want to know, hey, have you spit up blood in your life? I never really get an answer. It's more they divert. It's more like nobody really wants to acknowledge what's happening because it's scary, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to change your lifestyle.
Yeah.
So therefore you kind of divert. My mom goes, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's something, that's going to go away or something. I don't know.
Right.
She never has anything really to say. Neither does my dad.
So there's an intense amount of denial. It's not like, oh, she can have one drink. It's just sort of like there might be this understanding that you have a problem, that you've expressed grievance about alcohol, but at the same time, let's put that aside over here and let's just drink and talk and be father, daughter, mother, family, get along, and we're not going to talk about all that stuff over there. That's kind of upsetting.
It actually it gets quiet. It gets quiet in the room, and then everybody kind of, like I said, it diverts. It's very strange.
That's fascinating.
It's weird. I wish I could videotape it, even show you, because it's kind of like one of those moments where you're just like, well, yeah, I spit up blood again the other morning. Like, where do you think it's coming from?
I can't get my head around that. And
I'll be like, well, I binge drinked yesterday, and that's the only thing I could think that maybe have caused it. And it's the only time it really does happen.
The amazing thing is they've also sort of made the stories of your uncle and your grandfather into kind of these myths, like, be careful about that. And there's these stories that kind of float around, but there's no acknowledgement that may be happening to everybody in the room.
Oh, yeah.
And that's amazing to me.
I mean, that was when I was younger, is when they would tell me those things. Now it's gone all out the window. I also think my grandma and my grandfather, they're the only two in the family that don't drink.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the only ones still alive in the family. Let's just put it that way.
Right. Let me ask, what do you think life would be like if you were fully free from alcohol?
It would look like probably what I'm doing right now without the alcohol, because I'm very driven. I'm 100% a functioning alcoholic. So I own my own business. I pay my own bills. I do everything on my own. I go out and I do things with my family and friends and stuff like that. So I think what would happen is that if I didn't have alcohol in my life, instead of being at a 10% availability in life and kind of not like, I just kind of float through life right now, whereas I would be at 100%. Like I think I would be more, that's a hard one to answer.
Well, I guess I'm also asking, would you not be anxious? Would you not be panicky? Would your relationships with your people around you fall apart? Like, what do you think would happen?
No, I think at the end of the day, I think I'd still have my anxiety. My anxiety would always be there. I would just have to find another way to deal with it. I think it'd just be everything I do now, but I would be more aggressive at making things better. Like my business, I would focus more on trying to get more revenue, of how to grow instead of just being half-assed there. Being able to, like, I don't know, remember shit. Being able to remember what I'm doing in my days. The other day I went to go meet a customer and I was completely shit-faced. I honestly have never been like that. I like really was pissed at myself. Like I was on my way there and I was like, snap the fuck out of it. You have to talk to a customer right now. I remember getting there and I'm just like sitting there going, what in the hell did I just do? I think that doesn't allow me to be the business owner I need to be there and really hear what the customer needs and wants and sell more product. And, you know, I don't know. For me, it's just being present, being more present.
Okay. What's the part of you that wants to get sober?
The part that is sick and tired of being, as they say in the rooms, sick and tired. I'm not feeling good all the time. The part of me that wants to get sober is the part that I know that my drinking isn't working for my anxiety at all anymore. It was working for a period of time. Now, not even drinking helps it. Like my heart still races. I still have panic attacks even when I'm drinking. It takes me more.
What's the part of you that wants to keep drinking?
The part of me that wants to keep drinking is the part that keeps me close to the people I love. And moving out of my comfort zone, having to up my entire life into something new because I know that I can't submerge myself into the people that I'm around now. So I would have to change everything. Not that I would have to do a geographical.
That means move to a new place.
I'm not saying like move, but if I went to an inpatient somewhere and came back, I couldn't just go back to my normal life. I would have to find new things to do, new hobbies, and I couldn't be around my parents all the time. I couldn't be around people that were in my old community because they all drink. They all have an issue.
I always tell people the hardest part of getting sober is it's the hard wiring of your life that you're in. In order to get sober, you have to make a lot of really, really serious changes. What's the longest period of sobriety you've had since the age of 21?
I would say 2015. I spent Christmas in an inpatient program in Palm Springs, and I ended up staying in Palm Springs until 2015 April, I think, is when I returned home. Okay. So roughly 6 months.
What was that like, that 6 months?
It was a roller coaster.
Yeah.
I was still on medication, but I wasn't on as much as I was prior to that because they kind of took it down a notch, which was good. And the lady even said, the psychiatrist told me, she goes, what the hell do they have you on antipsychotics for? You are not weird. Bipolar.
Yeah.
So she took me off those. Again, it goes back to trust with the whole doctors thing. Not all doctors are bad, but you just have to be careful who you talk to.
Yeah.
And so I was on minimal medications, like an antidepressant and stuff for cravings. They weaned me off of benzodiazepines completely. So I was just off of that. And I was kind of going through this roller coaster of feelings because I feel like all my emotions hit me at once getting sober. It was like things were catching up to me. So it went up and down a lot. It was some days I had really good high moments, like really just on top of the world. And then there was moments where I was like, what am I doing here? And I'm not feeling great. And my anxiety's beyond. Yeah. And I couldn't breathe. So, I mean, just because you get sober doesn't mean everything stops. But it was good. It was a good experience. And I met a lot of really great people. Yeah. So.
What is it like to be in treatment?
I don't know if this is the right way to put it.
Put it any way you want.
It's like an adult camp. Kind of like how you did as a child where you show up at camp, you have no idea who any of these people are. You're hella scared.
Right.
And I use hella because I'm in San Francisco and it's just kind of what I do.
And it's the haircut.
Yeah. And the tie-dye shoes. So I show up and, you know, you're like, oh, okay. I'm bunked with a bunch of adults. It's great. You know, you're put into this one room with maybe 5 other people, maybe 4. Right. Who knows? If it depends on how big the room is.
Right. And how much money you have.
Yeah, and how much money you have, and if your insurance covers it or not. My insurance happened to cover everything, which was perfect. I didn't even have to spend anything out of pocket. Have good insurance before you go to treatment. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
And then during that time, I'm not going to say everything's all flowers and butterflies. It's hard. You're almost like a kid. You're throwing tantrums. You're doing shit that you never thought you would ever do because you're around other people that are emotionally unstable, just like you, because you're coming off of drugs or alcohol. Mm-hmm. You're doing things that you just you would do as a kid.
What kind of things are you doing?
I don't want to go to class today. Screw you. Like
the resident advisor comes and says, you need to go to.
You need to get up. You need to get out of bed. Yeah.
I don't want to eat. I don't want to go to breakfast. Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. They're forcing you to eat because you have to be regulated with eating, your medications. You have to go and take your medications at a certain time each day. You have to go to your classes each day. There's like, I can't remember, to be honest. It was like 3-4 classes in a day. And it was all different stuff about like either about addiction or groups where you talk about your trauma or, it's like deep stuff.
Yeah.
Like you're getting deep.
You're getting deep and they bring out the horses and you go pet a horse. And
that's true. I did do that.
Equine therapy?
Okay. I don't even want to say it because I'm almost feeling like I'm going to embarrass myself.
You pet the horse, and the horse is supposed to heal you. And then,
is it equine? No,
it's fucking.
I can't.
It's
I don't
equine
know.
It's got to be equine therapy. Let's ask Google.
Ask Siri.
Siri. I think it's got to be equine therapy.
I feel like this needs to be right before you move forward with this.
Well, I'm not right. Yeah, equine therapy. There it is.
Okay.
On Google. Okay.
You're
known as equine assisted therapy, EAT or EAT.
It's almost like 28 Days with Sandra Bullock, when she goes to equine therapy.
I haven't watched that in a while.
Oh goodness. Okay.
I can't. Anyway, so you do the thing and you have the pool and then there's like massages and saunas and
honestly, it's really, like you said, it's really all about how much money you have.
Yeah. My favorite is when these people, I used to work in these places and not as a therapist, I was like a tech kind of guy who ran around making sure that everybody got to group and they like complain like this place sucks and you suck.
You would have hated me then.
What?
You would have hated me because I was like, get the fuck out of my room.
We would have gone
leave me
along
alone.
famously. I remember once I had this mentor, Cliff, who's amazing, and he's this guy he's from like Louisiana somewheres, and this one woman was just every time she would see me she would go volcanic. And I'm like, Cliff, why does she hate me so much? She says, man, she don't hate you. When she see you, she just seeing her daddy. I'll probably cut that. But anyway, so those institutions were fun. That was a fun way to make a buck. Not very much bucks, but it was fun. But yeah, y'all are crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who isn't crazy when they're coming off their DOC?
So treatment. Yeah. So treatment's it's like summer camp for adults that have been bad, and
pretty much that like to overindulge.
Just a little bit. So the way it kind of works in treatment traditionally is you go to inpatient. That's like 28 days, 30 days. Should be 3 months, but who has time for that? And then after that, you go to IOP, and you're usually in a sober living environment, like a house with the people. Did you ever do that? You did that, right?
Sober living. Yes.
You did sober living.
Yes, I did.
How was that?
Well,
since you asked,
I actually had good experience.
Really?
Not everybody does. I get that.
Nope. I did a whole podcast on it.
Honestly, I think it's because my sober living house was in the hills. Of Emerald Hills in Redwood City, which happens to be a very nice neighborhood.
Okay.
I think I just got lucky, to be honest, because I don't want to sound like a snob. It's not like
you're such a snob.
I am. I'm horribly a snob.
I don't. Worst snob. Tattoos and your swoopy pink haircut and that black halter top.
I honestly can say this because you can end up some sleazy sober living spots where people are stealing from you.
Yeah.
You can't trust the person that you're rooming with, and there is some really really deep. I don't know how to explain it, but there's some stuff going on in there that most people don't really want to know about. And I don't want to scare people from, going to
they're
sober
hardcore,
living.
but I mean, they have curfews and they do random urinary analysis tests. And if the community is good, it can be really supportive. And you have to go to meetings, and it can be a good thing.
Yeah, it's actually a really good thing if you get a good sober living home with people that aren't corrupt. Let's just put it that way.
So anyway, look, let's talk about Alcoholics Anonymous. What is your relationship with AA?
I like how you're smiling at me because you already know what I'm going to say about this.
Yeah, I've already deposed you on this issue.
Listen.
On a previous occasion.
And I'm ready for this argument.
Okay, let's do it. Let's get the gloves are off.
So I appreciate AA and NA. I'm going to put that with both categories.
She appreciates it, ladies and gentlemen.
Appreciate it. Okay. I do. And I can also respect what they do for people, very much so. Actually, I still have a community of people that I've met through AA because I was forced into going to AA for my treatment program. Or my program.
At gunpoint.
Yeah, basically.
Yep.
I mean, you cannot not go if they're driving you there and driving you back to treatment.
Of course you can't. Not go.
So, I mean, I've met so many really good people though. I can't really talk shit about it. I love what they do, and it's gotten people sober, and it's worked for a lot of people. For me, I think the one thing that has always bugged me is listening to people talk about their God. And I don't want to sound like an asshole, but it's like I roll. Asshole. I kind of am.
You're such an asshole.
I really kind of am.
You're the worst flavor of asshole.
Listen, I grew up Catholic. Okay. And now here I am in my older years. I'm looking back on it and I'm thinking, I'm not accepted by the Catholic Church. I can't walk into a Catholic church and just sit down and be accepted because I'm married to a woman.
Right.
So most Catholics look at me and say, I'm so sorry, you're going to burn in hell, like kind of thing. And I can't appreciate that. It bugs me. So that's kind of my background on that. When I go into AA and I hear people talking about God, I'm very spiritual in a way that I believe in Mother Earth. I believe in Gaia. I believe in the stuff I see. I have a hard time following a Bible that was written by men. So I grew up as a Catholic in a Catholic family, which ended up, we left the church because my parents didn't agree with a lot of things in the whole Catholic Church. So we ended up leaving that. And although I believe in a higher power, I'm very spiritual. I can't follow along with the whole Bible scene. It's something I can't wrap my head around. And that's a long story. So I won't even go into that. The thing with AA is that although it's a God of your understanding, I still have to listen to other people talk about God as in God in the sky with Jesus Christ. And so the asshole I am, you
just don't want to be around it.
I can't, it bugs me.
Yeah.
Because I want to argue it and be like, how do you follow this blind, faithful, like to this religion that you're just, it's hearsay. It's telephone to me. So anyways, that has bugged me. But again, it's something that is going to actually, alcoholism will kill me. And here I am bitching and moaning about the fact that someone else's God is pissing me off. That doesn't make any sense. Like I should put that aside, and I totally get that. I just think that there might be, or maybe should be, a better option. Maybe take some of the AA with a little bit of smart recovery and combine it together, make it like a spiritual thing, but not quite God, where people are talking about God. I don't know. If there was something like that, I would be.
So smart recovery, for those who don't know, is basically a sort of the rational, secular meetings. They're like AA meetings where people kind of sit around and talk about finding solutions to everyday problems, and they don't have a big book. They don't talk about higher power.
Yeah, no 12 steps, I don't think, right?
Yeah. I guess what confounds me about your position, I understand it, and I do kind of get like ugh when people start talking about Jesus and God and all this stuff. But it's just the sheer size of AA and the amount of you'll find plenty of people who are good, and you can form a community around you who are not going to be Bible thumpers. There's thousands of them. AA is huge, and it's free, and it's everywhere. And it's like, why would you pass up that opportunity? It's like I understand where you're coming from, and I also don't understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I get it. This is the thing. I have a huge community in the AA world and NA. I don't know what to say to that. I like, at the end of the day, it's not that I'm not spiritual, because I am. I'm very spiritual. I meditate daily, especially when I can, when the alcoholism isn't getting in the way of it, because obviously you can't 100% ground when you're anesthetizing your brain.
What I tell people is that replace the word higher power with deeper power, because they went to Carl Jung to figure this shit out. Right. And he said that you have to have a spiritual transformation, I believe is what he said, in order to get over your alcoholism, because alcoholism is not, in my opinion, it's not cured. It's outgrown, or you become more awake, more conscious. And the 12 steps are essentially a spiritual journey. And of course, there are many ways to have a spiritual journey, to have a spiritual experience. Jung said that increased consciousness was about connecting your ego or your conscious self to your unconscious self. And if you just take the word deeper, what's my deeper power? What's the deeper part of myself? Because there's no appreciable difference between the spiritual process of a Buddhist monk and a Catholic priest and an atheist who finds solace by out in her garden, digging in the earth. It's the same shit. Everybody's doing the same thing, but they're arguing about dogma. It's like, the iota of difference. You've heard that phrase? Like, there's no iota of difference between this and this. You never heard of that?
No.
Well, it's an old phrase, and it was this. There was this argument. An iota is basically a dot, and there was a place in the Bible, I forget where they would argue about where this iota should go. Should it go here or here? And they got into horrible. Or there was like part of the church like split over this iota. And it's
That's
like,
big.
Come on, guys, it's just it's not that big a deal. So in AA, you find a lot of people who get really dogmatic and annoying.
Yeah.
Just like you do in the real fucking world. Just like, that if you have a bad neighbor and you got a good neighbor. It's like, who gives a fuck? What? Why get?
Well, try having my neighbor. Okay.
Well, fuck your neighbor.
I'm just kidding.
Anyway, that's just my argument. I don't want to get into it too deeply.
No, I get it.
I'm going to sort of wrap here, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's next for you. Are you going to try to take another swing at the sobriety thing? Are you just going to coast for a while? What's going on?
I don't know. I thought I'd wing it.
Wing it.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Obviously hasn't worked for me, so
yeah, that's not the thing.
Yeah, no. I'm kidding. I don't know what I want to do. I hate living like this. I do. When I wake up at 4:30 a.m. and think to myself, okay, that's it. No more alcohol. I'm not doing it. I don't care if I have a seizure or not. I'm not touching a goddamn drop of it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then 10 a.m. rolls around and I'm like thinking of all the excuses in the world of why I should.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a really hard time stopping on my own.
Yeah.
100%. And I know it takes a community to help you. It does. You really do need support. I've gone from addiction to addiction to addiction. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's cocaine, benzos, or alcohol. Alcohol's been kind of my go-to. It's always the one that I end up back with. I would like to say that I want to go and try again to get sober. But the pit of my stomach tells me that this is just my life and I'm going to eventually die from it. I know that sounds super wah-wah and like depressing, but I have a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that I'm actually going to do anything different from what I actually do right now. It's very hard to, especially with a community of people that drink and their life's engulfed in drinking as well, being that my friends are family and my family is friends kind of thing. It's just, it's hard.
But I commend you for your bravery of saying that. I mean, that takes a lot of willpower to be able to get in front of the whole world and say, yeah, I'm not really sure I'm going to make it. Here I am in this thing and I want to, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think every story has a happy ending.
Well, I'm not saying that your ending isn't going to be happy, but I do think you're speaking for millions of people in your position. What would you say to people who are struggling as you are?
I would say don't give up. And if you're trying to get sober for the first time, reach out for help to whoever you feel most comfortable with. Open that door just a little bit, just to say, hey, I need help. Just so that it's a start. It's a start. It's to start something that could possibly help save your life. Don't be afraid to do that. And if you're someone that's like me, where you're a chronic relapser, I guess that's how it would be seen from the professional side of the world. Don't give up on yourself and just keep trying. what's the worst that can happen if you keep trying to get sober?
Yeah.
You know, what, one day maybe you actually might get sober.
Yeah.
So
do you think you might get sober someday?
I think it's going to have to take a really big shift for me. Something big. Because so far, me just trying to do it on my own and wanting to do it, even the fact that I spit up blood, I'm still not, I'm not getting sober off. That to me, I would have said a couple of years ago, before that happened, I would have said, oh, if I was doing that, I would give it up immediately, but it didn't.
Well, you once told me, and this is a bit edgy, but if you were pregnant, you'd have no problem not drinking.
Oh, because that's another human life, and I would never put a human life in danger. Like,
but what about your own human life?
My life's different.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think,
to me, it is.
And I guess my position is that I think that it's possible that your salvation in this matter lies in bringing those two ideas together.
I mean, it's possible, but there's been a time when I didn't even want to live. So I think that's why I live the way I live.
Do you not value yourself? Do you not see yourself as a precious human being?
I do see myself as a human being, but and it's not that I don't appreciate life. It's that when I'm going through a really rough time, like let's just say my anxiety, when it was a couple months ago when I couldn't breathe and I literally had to lay on the floor to try to get myself together. In those moments, I think to myself, I don't want to live. There's no reason to live if you're living like that every day, constantly, right? I always say, like, if anybody would live a day in my shoes on a bad day with anxiety like I have, I feel like it would be no questions asked. They'd be like, I'm done. Like, I'm not living like this. So, yeah, I mean, it sucks. And I do respect life, and I'm very spiritual in a way where I try to connect so hard and ground myself with when I meditate, because I do try to meditate, and I know that I'm not 100% perfect, and I drink, and so I can't 100% ground. But when I meditate and I pull myself in the moment, it makes me feel better, and it makes me appreciate I'm actually living, I'm breathing, I'm here. I had a chance to live. I took a breath when I was a baby. I'm here in this moment 39 years later, and I was created for a reason. I'm here, and I can appreciate that. But it gets really dark when you have moments like...
Yeah. And in lieu of all that, what would you say to family members or friends or communities that have someone suffering from alcoholism and maybe their perceptions around it?
I would say, I know it's extremely difficult to watch a loved one struggle. I would say to have empathy, not sympathy, because it's a huge difference when you're standing above someone in a deep hole, whereas you're down in the hole with them. And that's the only way I could explain how empathy and sympathy is. When someone feels alone and they're by themselves and they need someone there to comfort them, they want someone there with them in the shitstorm. I would also say to educate yourself and search out what you can do to help someone properly instead of doing it on your own, because there's a lot of times people become codependent, and a parent especially can become codependent, and they can do more harm than good in doing that to someone that they love.
What do you mean by codependent?
Codependent meaning that they put the other person before their own well-being. And
try to help them.
They try to help them, meaning also in ways of like supporting their habits just because they think that it might hurt them to take them off completely in that moment. Maybe they support in a way of like, hey, let me mediate your medication for you. I
see, right. Yeah, let me help you get sober for a few days.
Yeah, I'll hold your pills for you, and I'll give you a few here and there. That's like that's like 100% codependent, because it shouldn't be on that person to do that. And
also family members need to go to ALANON, and ALANON is like AA, but it's meetings that talk about how you can't control the addict. That's not your responsibility. All right, well, I think we're done. Just want to make sure you're okay, that you felt this was a thorough interview and you feel like you said what you needed to say.
I'm going to say that it's as much as I could say in the amount of time that we had.
All right. Well, you're a fucking bruiser, and I look forward to your continued fight against all of this.
Well, let's see.
Alrighty. Take care. Thank you for listening. As always, pertinent information stemming from this podcast will appear in the program notes. In addition, should you have any questions or wish to be a guest on my show, please contact me at benjaminrussick@gmail.com. That's BenjaminRussack@gmail. Thank you again, and remember, should you find that your plate is full, well, consider getting a bigger plate.